Sue Hodgen, Chair of the Southport Planning Board. It is 6:01 and I'm calling our meeting to order. I ask that everyone silence or turn off your cell phones, please. Let's start by removing any hats, and those who can and will, please stand while our board member, Donnie Joyner, gives our invocation, and we'll follow with our allegiance.
Let us pray. All wise and almighty God, it's once again we'd like to say thank you for allowing us to assemble here today in the beautiful city of Southport to take care of the city's business. Lord, I ask as I will that you would give us the wisdom and guidance so that we can make the fair decision in all matters brought before this board. And when this meeting is over with, I ask that you send your guardian angels home with each and every one of us back to our loved ones. These and all blessings in Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Donnie. For the record, I am noting that Dick Sloan is absent for a medical procedure, and we're wishing him the very best. In Dick's stead, and by the duties of his appointment, City Alternate Kevin Lachlan is given full voting privileges for tonight's meeting. We do have a quorum to conduct business, so we'll get started with our agenda. Approval of the minutes. Members were issued the minutes of the October 18 meeting in advance. Are there any changes or corrections? Do I hear a motion to approve those October minutes as prepared? Thank you, Donnie. In a second? Thank you, Will. There is a motion on the floor. Any final discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item E is the approval of our agenda for this evening. Members were issued the agenda in advance of this meeting as well. I will note that the agenda has been changed. Staff notified that we are removing item G3, text amendment for mixed use in highway commercial, from our agenda for this evening. Are there any other additions or corrections? Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Will and Donnie. There is a motion on the floor. Any final discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Item F is public comment. Do I hear a motion to move into public comment?
So moved.
Thank you, Will. And a second? Thank you, Donnie. Y'all are a tag team tonight. Thank you. Motion is on the floor. Any final discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? That too passes unanimously. Thank you. Madam Deputy Clerk, please begin calling the names of anyone signed up to speak.
I did not have anyone signed up.
Is there anyone here tonight that would like to address the board? Excellent. Okay. Thank you so much. All right. Do I hear a motion to end public comment?
So moved.
Thank you, Will. In a second. Any final discussion? Motion on the floor. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? We're moving right along. That passes unanimously as well. Okay, item G, old business. First item, returning to a requested text amendment for UDO section 3.9, setback exceptions and encroachments. Ms. Meehan.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Planning Board. This evening, we're bringing back a applicant requested text amendment. Cameron Smith has asked for a text amendment to section 3.9B5. It's the setback exceptions and encroachments. This is a legislative decision. The Planning Board will make a recommendation to the Board of Aldermen. There'll be a public hearing, and then the final decision will be made by the Board of Aldermen. So I will go through the language The proposed change originally was adding a new caveat or section at the end of the existing encroachment allowances. So sills, cornices, buttresses, ornamental features, gutters, eaves, striking, heating, and air conditioning units, and similar items may project into a required setback not more than 30 inches. The new language was air conditioning, heating and air conditioning units, generators, pool equipment, and similar items may project not more than 48 inches into a required setback. So that was the original change that was proposed by the applicant. And I was asked at the last meeting to provide some site plans. I couldn't find really good examples, so I got out the old engineer scale and drew these for you. So this, and in your packet, you've got a better understanding. So this will show you on a regular 8-foot setback, a 30-inch encroachment, and then a 48-inch encroachment. And if you would like to look at those in your packet as I go through some of these, and I'm going to be showing just the 8-foot setback for these examples, just since that was the average and the required setback for R10. So those will start then on page 12 of your packet. So after some consideration and discussions, the planning board, you asked me to come forward with some new language, some different options to look at. The first option was, again, striking the heating and air conditioning from the 30-inch encroachment, and then adding a heating and air conditioning units, generators, pool equipment, and similar items may project into the setback not 42 inches, but not closer than 24 inches to the lot line. So on this example, you'll see I have shown here is a 42-inch setback, and this line, second solid line then would be the 24 inches from the lot line, to give you an example of that. So that would give you, if this, hold on, let me find this. So just for an example, this is the 8, so it's 4.5 feet from the lot line on an 8-foot standard setback. On a 6-foot, it'll be 2.5 feet from the lot line. The 4-foot would be 2 feet from the lot line for an encroachment, since it can only be the 24 inches rather than the 42 setback, or encroachment rather. So then the second option that was brought forward was, again, the same beginning, and they added, so it would keep the encroachment at the 30 inches and then not more than 36 inches from the property line. So again, this shows you on an 8-foot setback, here's your 30-inch, and this second line would be the 36-inch from the lot line. Just wanted to note that when doing the calculations for the 4-foot, the only encroachment allowances that this example will give you would be a 6-inch encroachment for lots smaller than 6 feet. Just to point that out, just as a notice. So speaking with the applicant, they are open to an amendment to their original. They are willing to go to more of a 42-inch and consider possibly 18 inches from the lot line rather than 24 to bring it up for discussion. So that was just brought up. So then again, here's a 42-inch, hold on, with the 18-inch up on the top picture here, illustration. And then on the bottom, we've got the 42 inches with the, or the 48 inches with the 42. So, or 24, I apologize, 24. So, those were the different options that I was asked to bring forward. So I just wanted to open this up and send it back to you for discussion. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Otherwise, the floor is yours.
I have one question. Mm-hmm. Is there a lot of incidents where we have to change the setbacks due to the fact that I know you start out with R10, but there's a lot of lots on the west side, which they've done buildings on, and they're not R10s. They wouldn't even be considered R8s. So it's just something that we need to do this because the whole city has to change. Because I always thought the UDO was sort of like the United States Constitution. You have to be careful when you change it, because if you change it one time, somebody might come back up and change it again. And I don't want to use the word conditional use, but it's out there. What if it was a case that someone had a problem with that, they could come back to the board to get that? Or is it necessary to go ahead and change it to this because 20 years down the road, it might be different?
So I guess, let me just clarify what you're asking is this actually necessary, I guess is what you're asking? Or is this?
Yeah, do we have a lot of cases right now that it's necessary to go ahead and change the UDO, or is it a case where builders or someone saw the need that, you know what, we're going to have problems with this and we need to change it, so let's change it now?
So historically, this section of the UDO has not been enforced. So there are instances all over the city where there are encroachments over the 30 inches. So we have started enforcing this, and they're asking for a little bit more, some changes. So that's, and you know, this is an applicant request, so that's, so yes. Like, and this one you'll see, I brought this one back up. This is a smaller lot on North Caswell, and they were able to make an 8-foot side setback. They only needed to have a 4-foot setback, but they were able to make the 8-foot. But you'll see that they put the air condenser in the backyard behind the house rather than the sides, and then did a patio on the side yard.
Yeah, because I think some of the lots, they have privacy fences on them, am I correct? And those privacy fences, I think, supposed to be 6 inches inside their lot line?
They can be right on the lot line. I mean, we ask that they be a little bit off just for, so that it's not going to be encroaching on this.
If it's on the lot line, you might have somebody else saying, well, they've got a fence on my line.
Exactly.
I know when I lived in Atlanta, that was the case. And we found out that they were 6 inches on my property. Okay, that's it.
One of the things I've been looking at with this also is, and just like Donnie says, necessity. Now, I realize that generators as well as air conditioners need to be placed close to where your, especially generators need to be placed close to where your electrical service comes in, so that it could be better managed in case of there's a problem, which I could see that. I think we need to look at the language of this as far as what is a necessary item. Now, in this case, I believe that a generator would be a necessary item. If if that's where your electrical's coming in, then it's going to need to be put into that area. And now with inverter technology and other things that they have now, they're a lot quieter than the old generator. 10 years ago, they would have just blown your eardrums out, but now they're a lot quieter. And also, too, for one of the things we're looking at now towards the future is efficiency of our air units. So there's different zones that are set up so that these mini splits can operate, which are much smaller. So they would need to be closer to the actual area where they're transferring the air. So I could understand that as well. As far as LP tanks go, we need to be careful with that, because I remember a situation a few years ago, well, a number of years ago, where one was struck by lightning, and it actually blew the house up, and that was on Leonard and near Fodale, and it caused several heat injuries with the fire department. Now, there's a simple way to, because we're, looking at being so close, yeah, there's a necessity for that to be close to the generator it may be running, or to the heating unit it may be running. But when you're installing that, I would think that perhaps we should put something in the language that it could be allowed, but it'd have to be buried. That way, if there is a problem, and it's marked, and it would still be able to get electrical and plumbing through there as well. But if there is a problem, then you're addressing the safety concerns of the houses that are surrounding that. As far as pool equipment, you kind of getting into something there, because that's not really a necessity so much as your generators and other things. So we need to look at it. What's necessary for quality of life? Quality of life would be, you want to generate power, because if, like I said, if somebody has an oxygen generator, or they have COPD, or they have a CPAP or something along that, they're going to need to have some type of way of continuing that. And then, of course, look at, air units that are spread out around the property, that are close, that they're going to be more efficient, and that's going to, later on, as we get into more power needs, that's going to help out there. But as far as, I would say the pool equipment, put it next to the pool, but that would be my thing. But we need to make sure that it's a quality of life item, I believe, and I think that's a fair request, that so that we don't have everything crammed on one side of a house, and then the other person has everything crammed on the other side of the house. Of course, it's another option, another item for another day, but we need to look at, the testing periods of these generators. That's something else for a future discussion, but that they're set during certain times of the day, so that they're not going off at 6 o'clock in the morning, or 2 o'clock in the morning, or whatever. Usually they're going to go off during the day, but anyway, I would think we could look at, make sure that it's a quality of life item that could be, and that it would actually be, beneficial to have it there. So.
I have a couple comments. So, based on my experience as a builder, the generator does not need to be right by the electrical service. I just did one recently. It was 32 feet away. And then there is a requirement for the above ground tanks to be, I believe I'm not sure if it's 15 feet or 20 feet, but there's a factor for that as well. I don't think we need to be going anything less than 2 feet with any kind of equipment from the property line. I understand it's a inconvenience on a 33-foot wide lot, but as I mentioned before, that could be overcome with a creative solution of recessing the footprint. It could be cantilevered out over that area on the second floor, so there's minimal loss of square footage. As you mentioned, Will, mini splits are coming into play now, and there's options where they can be used for the whole house, and that could work on a 33-foot wide lot, but I do not see any equipment being allowed on the side of a 33-foot lot, because if you do the math, if they use a traditional, well, I take that back. If it's something like a mini split for a creative solution, that's fine. They could meet the 2-foot setback. But if it's a standard 36-inch unit and the manufacturer wants that about a foot off the house, well, that's right on the property line. That's silly. So same with the generator, that's going to be right on the property line as well. There are other options. So I don't think we need to be any closer than 24 inches from the property line on any lot. And if a 33-foot wide lot can't meet that, they'll need to come up with another solution. To me, it's a no-brainer to not have access down the side for, number one, safety. Number two, the neighbor's more than likely going to landscape along that edge or put up a privacy fence, and then that 2 foot's going to disappear pretty quickly. But it would be absurd to go less than 24 inches, in my opinion.
Yeah, Fred, I tend to agree with you. I look at things a little differently. I look at an ordinance as being kind of just like a law. Like Donnie said, the Constitution. Do you have good cause, basically, to change an ordinance? Does the need of a few mandate that it's changed for everybody, subject to negative factors on the environment or on the community? And in this case, because Southport has limited land now, everything's going up. And of course, builders want to increase their profit. They want to have, if they have small lots, they want to increase the square footage so they can get more money for the house. They don't want to have to take the innovative concepts that Fred talked about, because that would cut down on what they could sell the house for. And I think if you make it, you change an ordinance and make it applicable everywhere, I think you're opening a Pandora's box to a lot of unknowns when there's not that many that will be affected by this, and there's reasonable remedies. It might be a different story if there wasn't reasonable remedies that could be used so people could build a home or have the AC, the generators. There's reasonable alternatives which to accomplish without changing the ordinance. And I know, Mo, and humbly, you've been around a lot longer than I have, and I know you said they didn't enforce it. And and it always reminds me, there was JFK once said something, he said something to the effect that let's not seek to fix the blame for the past. Let us accept our own responsibility for the future, which means, as a judge once told me when I was trying to convince him, he said something a month ago, put down his glasses and looked at me, he said, "Son, no one reads yesterday's newspaper." So with that, what we haven't done or what hasn't been done in the past, I think we have to look at the overall impact, and I think anytime we change an ordinance, we should be very frugal and very introspective about it. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Well, go ahead.
Go ahead, Scott.
I was just going to say that we keep going back to the 33-foot lots and the small setbacks that they have. I just think we need to not lose sight. I don't know percentages, but a lot of the new construction is on lots with 8-foot setbacks, and we need to word it so that they're not penalized when you talk about only letting them go so far into the setback, and they're still going to have 4 to 5 feet of room to get by. So if we work on a minimum that allows a lot with an 8-foot or 10-foot setback to encroach enough to allow these units, they'll still be 4 feet from the line, and it's not an issue. I think we need to keep in mind that we're not just dealing with the non-conforming lots, and we don't need to word this to penalize the lots that do have setbacks that would allow to put these units into the setback and still have plenty of room to get around. And also, you know, the gas tanks really aren't an issue because they have their own set of rules that this doesn't apply to. So I don't think we need to really worry about that.
Since last month, I've been informed, rightfully so, of my ignorance about manufactured home designations here, zoning here, that allow 4-foot setbacks. And I don't know how technology and split units and the size of those units affect the size of the HVAC equipment and all, but if we go to 48 inches encroachment, that would be to the very property line. So that's starting to say that's a no-brainer for the manufactured home zoning. Okay, and we just have, that's been approved just recently. So we have 48 inches that are in anywhere that they're going to be manufactured homes. So I'm saying, I think I agree with everybody that 48 inches, we're trying to pass something that goes from somebody who's bought as much land as they need and they're not going to go anywhere near their 8-foot setback to someone who doesn't have but 4 feet to put all this in. And we've got to accept that this HVAC system and all is an integral part of any house today. I mean, it's not optional. I think if it was optional, there'd be a lot less people living down here. So I like not going too close to the property lines. I really do. I feel like that is valid. But then you start saying, what does that leave left to encroach with? Well, if you got 8 feet, 48 inches is halfway. That's not, that can be done easily. The non-conforming and the manufactured homes and all these others that have less than 8 feet, less than 6 feet. That's where this all starts, where I need help from everybody, because I see that this equipment is going to be closer and closer almost onto the line. And if we go with the not less than 24 inches to the property line with 4-foot setback, that only leaves you 24 inches for installation of anything, which we've been told very clearly that doesn't work. Maybe with new technologies that we don't know about, like the splits and all, the 24 inches is adequate. I don't know where, I just don't know exactly how how to pass something that is user-friendly to every one of these different zones, R10, whatever, manufactured housing, non-conforming lots. So I'm sort of got myself in a conundrum here as to what is best here, because technology is changing, the lot sizes are changing, zoning is changing, and we've got a request in front of us that it's already changed. I'd like just other people to talk about it and respond if they can figure it out better than I can.
If I may, with what Scott said, I could live with that, because what he's saying is that, unless I get it wrong, and if I do, he'll tell me, we just use this for R10 lots where we've got that 8-foot setbacks, and we're not worried about the lots that are under 8 feet. That might be something that everybody could live with, because if it's R10 lot, you got an 8-foot setback, and I think the most you said it could encroach on that setback was 4 feet. So that would work, but it wouldn't work on a 33-foot lot, but I think that's what it is. And Mo, you might help me out here before I sink. We're talking about R10 lots, or are we talking about doing it for all lots, even the ones that's under I-10?
This request would be for all lots, zonings. So you've got your PUD zonings that may have different lot sizes as well, with different setback requirements. So it's all lots within the city. So I want to let that. So the existing one is the 30-inch encroachment, which is what is in the UDO currently.
Well, I don't, and maybe I'm not understanding this right either, Mo. You may have to inform again, but looking at this, I don't have a problem with the beginning of the text as it's currently there for 30 inches for those items. I would agree. I would not want to see anything any closer than 2 feet in. That's, we're just, move in with your neighbor if that's the case. But I would maybe like for us to consider having the second sentence of that, and I'm looking at the text with the 42-inch encroachment here, but making a change to that, maybe making the heating and air conditioning units, all that sentence, a separate line, divide that out and make that even 42 or even 48 inches for the area back into the required setback, but not closer than 36 inches from the lot line. That would seem to me that it would provide for and protect the non-conforming lots and maybe lessen the cases that might have to end up going before the Board of Adjustment to do that. I don't know if that makes sense, Mo?
If you do the 36-inch, not closer than 36 inches from the lot line, on your smaller lots, that actually reduces the encroachment a lot. So I just want to make sure so let's say like on the 4-foot setbacks with a 36-inch setback from the lot line, that you only have 6 inches for encroachment. I just want to make sure that we know it. I understand what you're asking.
And obviously, we all know the non-conforming lots are the issue in all of this. There's always going to be things that are going to wind up before the Board of Adjustments. We just can't help it we can't find, I don't think there's going to be a solution to fit everything.
Yes, and we have been able to work, we've been working with the developers and people constructing new homes or adding things, so there are ways to work with them to put the units in different places. So we've been trying to get the word out and working closely with the builders to make sure that the units are meeting either the 30-inch or putting it in a different area of the house, or the lot, rather.
So we're doing more concentrated effort on compliance with the current ordinance. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Who else? What other conversation? Do we need additional, I think we have one more cycle, Mo, that's allowed for the 90-day period. Do we need additional time, gentlemen, to reflect on this? And anything else that you want to suggest to Mo for staff to research and bring back to us? Or do we have a motion ready for this evening?
Maybe a closer look, because the way I'm reading some of these, and I'm probably reading it wrong, like the one for text with 36 inches from the property line, it says setbacks not more than 30 inches and not closer than 36 inches from property line. I think most of it is maybe in the wording that people are getting confused, like myself. Because since you said it includes those under R10 lots, which have a 4-foot setback, I'm just wondering if the ones that have a 4-foot setback, the one says text with 36 inch from property line, are you referring to them? So it's 36 inches from the property line. So that means that, unless I'm wrong, it says required setbacks are not more than 30 inches and not closer than 36 inches from the property line. So if it's not closer than 36 inches from the property line, that brings it in quite a bit, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And if you
So
look
it'd
at
be
it,
like 1 foot,
half a foot, 6 inches for the small
to
lots.
stick out a half a foot.
Yes.
Ooh. Okay.
And
Well,
you can
all right.
see these graphically for that 36-inch example in attachment C of your packets. That's going to be page 23 through 28 of your packet. These are examples of those setbacks, of the 30-inch encroachment with the 36 from the lot line.
Yeah, I'm looking at that. So with that being said, let's say they had a heat pump on the side of their house. Based on that, on the smaller lots, they wouldn't be able to put it on there. Am I correct?
That's correct. It would have to be located elsewhere on the lot.
Okay. So we're almost at the same spot that the R10 lots, I think this would be more favorable than the lots that are like R8 or smaller. And those, maybe I'm wrong, have to be looked at individually.
Mo, let me ask you a question. This does not affect the larger homes with the larger lots, correct?
In most instances, no.
So we're dealing with small ones. Are these smaller lots brought in front of the Board of Adjustment, where it's a one review at a time, where the Board of Adjustments can say, we understand this is not your hardship, brought on by your plans, and the Board of Adjustments can make exceptions for these non-conforming lots and so forth?
There has not been a case to the Board of Adjustment for this subject itself. We have been working with the builders, like I said, to make sure that they either meet that 30-inch encroachment or they are in a different spot within the lot, behind the home, on the other side of the home, that meets the setbacks. Yes, it could go to the Board of Adjustments, but you also don't want an ordinance that takes cases to the Board of Adjustment for approvals. That makes it not a hardship. You want your ordinance to be able to include those types of instances.
Well, just for bring this along, I'm going to suggest we consider not changing it at all and leaving it as it is.
Kevin, did you have something else?
Yeah, I just go back to what is the necessity? We can always come up with hypotheses of examples, but unless it's going to create an undue hardship to the community as a whole, and there's methods in which by working with the city, things can be accomplished, because this does apply to every lot. So down the road, even though they have plenty, a bigger home with a larger lot has plenty of room, why can't they do an addition and then move their equipment closer if we amend? We're looking at it kind of myopically. We're saying, well, it's just small lots. No, then that opens a door for everybody to do it. And then all the things that Fred talked about, the aesthetics, trespassing. I mean, if it's so close, workmen or someone with equipment have to go onto the neighbor's property. I've heard people complaining about that. ventilation issues, sound issues. I think you need more humbly to change, to want to change an ordinance just under the circumstances before us without disrespect to anyone else's position.
So if nothing changes, Mo, do you think this is going to come up at the Board of Adjustments now that you're enforcing it? Like, do you think us taking no action on a recommendation?
It's hard to say, honestly. We really try to let the, now that we know that the provision, I started enforcing this provision when I started. So for the last year, it's been enforced. And the builders know now. Yes, there are times when the homeowners want to have their footprint larger, but like I said, at this point, we have not had a case come before the Board of Adjustment for this. Not to say that it couldn't happen.
So, what's your pleasure on this? Roy, what, are we to take that was a motion? Would you put that into a motion if that's what you
I can
are
make that a
intending?
motion, whether it passes or not. At least we'd be moving ahead on it. So, and please help me with the wording on it. Move that we leave the, I'm sorry, the regulation as it is.
So that would be denying the application for the text amendment as put forward and leave our ordinance as stated in the UDO currently. Is that right?
Yes?
Motion is on the floor. Do I hear a second? Second. Thank you, Kevin. On the floor, any final discussion?
Just for clarification, Mo, would you tell us what the current UDO states on that so we know what we're sticking with?
The existing language says stills, cornices, buttresses, ornamental features, gutters, eaves, heating and air conditioning units, and similar items may project into a required setback not more than 30 inches.
And that heating and air units may not project more than 48 inches
I'm sorry, that is the proposed change.
Oh, that's the proposed, okay.
Yeah, so the underlined is the new that won't be included. So if you go to your memo on page 9 of your packet, the existing text is written there clear for you without any changes.
So there's no provision for the equipment to be in the setback at all? Is that the way I'm
Well,
reading
similar
that?
items are considered.
Okay, it would come under similar items, I'm sorry.
That's correct, yes,
Because I was reading where the heating and air was
yes,
marked out, but it's added underneath. I got it.
yes.
So everything is remaining at 30 inches then?
That's correct.
I got one last question. So if we don't do anything and say, let's just leave it like it is, it goes up to the alderman. Now, will it rebound off the backboard back to us again?
The process would be your recommendation of the denial of the application would go to the Board of Aldermen. They would hold a public hearing. Then after that public hearing, they would make a decision, final decision, and they could go with the planning board's recommendation. They could not go with the recommendation and approve the change, or they could make a separate change themselves.
All right. Any further discussion? We do have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Aye. So noted, the motion does pass for denial of the text application, a vote of 5-1. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Mo. All right, Mo, we're moving on to G2, a text amendment for section 3.12.B.2 driveways.
Yes, so this item was brought to you at your October meeting. I apologize. So at your October meeting, this was first brought to you. The Board of Adjustment at their September meeting requested and directed staff to bring forward a text amendment to the driveway standards to eliminate the number of variances that could potentially be heard. There was one that had been brought forward that needed a variance from the 10-foot setback as well as the 50-foot width. At that meeting, staff shared the language that was originally in the UDO that had been changed, and that was the direction they gave. So that was what was presented at the October meeting, which is this proposed language, which includes before a zoning permit is issued for the construction, reconstruction, or change in use of any building or land used for purposes other than a single or two-family residence, all driveways shall be reviewed and approved by the UDO administrator or his or her designee. And so that was the original language that was brought as the proposal to your meeting. After discussion, it was requested that the language also be considered that only for the driveway, so that the driveway setback itself would be considered, but all other of the standards for the driveways would stay the same, including the no more than 50% width of the property. And so this was drafted: no non-residential driveway shall be located within 10 feet of a side lot property line, except in the case of a shared driveway, single curb access point, utilized by 2 or more lots. Residential driveways for single and two-family dwelling units shall not be located within 2 feet of the side property lines. So this was what the planning board had asked me to bring back some language with these dimensions. I feel that it would definitely reduce the necessity for variance and help, because the single-family homes, when they have a 4-foot setback, or their garages have a 5-foot setback, so they were able to have their driveway lead into those buildings. That is what I have for this evening. I'm happy to answer any questions. Staff finds that either option is consistent with UDO and the KAMA land use plan. So I will turn it over to discussion with you, and happy to help with any questions.
Oh, don't sit, no, don't sit. I'm sorry. I want to make sure I'm looking at the minutes from the Board of Adjustments. Those minutes from September, and
Yes.
I want to be sure that what we're proposing is going along with their vote that was taken. And it says there was a motion to recommend approval of the variance application, which allows the reduced setback of 8 feet and to require that the driveway width be reduced to 50% or less of the width of the front of the property. The variance, and that passed. The variance request for the reduction in side setback for the garage was approved. The variance request for the width of the driveway was denied. The applicant was asked to reduce the width of the driveway for the permit process. So what we're doing covers exactly what they asked us to do in this, right? This was not, we're not backing up. We're not going back and taking any prior, we're not reverting back to any prior text in the UDO.
No, if you move forward with the driveway only setback language, then that would cover that, absolutely, yes.
Who else? Any other discussion? Comments? Happy with the proposal, folks? Need more time to think about it? You're very quiet. Anything else we want staff to research and consider here? Then do I hear a motion to accept staff's drafted recommendation for 3.12.B.4E with non-residential driveways being limited to a minimum 10-foot to side lot property, except for shared driveways and residential drives for single and two-family dwelling required to be more than 2 foot from side lot property lines as a submitted text amendment, for forwarding on to the Board of Aldermen. No motion?
Just opening the discussion back up. I don't see a problem. Does anybody else see a problem with this?
Do I hear a motion to accept this recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you, Kevin. Motion is on the floor. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. I'll need a member, please, to read the consistency statement for Amendment ZTA-23-04, found on page 41 in your packet, if someone will do that, please. Thank you, Will.
All right. The City of Southport Planning Board hereby recommends adoption of the proposed zoning text amendment to the Board of Aldermen and finds that it is consistent with the city's 2014 Camecorp Land Use Plan originally adopted November 13th, 2014, and subsequently amended by the Southport Board of Aldermen. More specifically, the proposed amendment is consistent with Policy 7.22. The city shall continually maintain all official planning documents.
Thank you, sir. All right, moving along. And Mo, I want to be sure for this item that was taken off tonight, are they pulling the application or they're just asking for it to be tabled till the next meeting?
They would like to have it continue to the next
Okay,
meeting.
thank you. Just wanted to be sure that we had that on record. Thank you, ma'am. All right, moving on to item H, new business. Anything from staff to include in this? All right, we move on to item I, other business. One item, the update on the comprehensive plan. Ms. Meehan.
So the Board of Aldermen at their November 9th regular meeting appointed the Planning Board as the steering committee for the comprehensive plan. So this is going to be, the steering committee is an advisory board that will focus on the scope of the work, the direction of submittals, the timelines, and overseeing the progress of the project. They'll be taking information and data and updates of the plan and reviewing it for movement forward. So I wanted to let you know that that was going to be happening. They're going to use the existing meeting schedules for the planning board for those meetings, so it can be included as during one of your regular meetings. And to be prepared, there'll be about 1 to 2 meetings in phase 1, and these will be, the phases are approximately quarterly, to give you an idea of the timing. And then they're anticipating that these steering committee meetings would be approximately an hour, hour and a half extra. Some may be longer, they said, some may be shorter. So it really, just to give you an average so you know what to expect for these meetings. But it's very exciting. We're starting this next month to get the data, all the data collected and all the raw data and background information to the consultants so we can do a kickoff in the beginning of the year in January with the starting of the public input and like I said, bringing forward the steering committee so we can get the schedules and everything made and get this process moving. So we're excited about this, and I hope you are too.
Are there any questions for Mo about this? It's
Oh, it's Stewart. I apologize. They're out of Raleigh, so it's called Stewart Consultants, and they're a smaller consulting group, which was really beneficial that the staff and the alderman thought would be, and they would be able to really cater to our needs and focus on the smaller town feel that we have. So it wouldn't be so cookie cutter. They'll be able to focus and really cater to our needs. You're welcome.
And they had indicated, did they not, I think during the interviews, that their best availability was starting in December anyway. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes. They were finishing up several larger projects, so this timing worked out great for them. So they'll be able to really hit the ground running in the new year.
Roy, I was in on those interviews for those companies that submitted for this job, and Stewart Company was very impressive. All of us had good feelings about their responses, their plan for it. They were impressive with prior work that they brought in for us. I will say it was apparent at the Board of Aldermen meeting that not all the aldermen thought that the planning board was the best selection for that. I think that vote was 5-1 to have us do it, although that is in the UDO, that we are designated the body for this type of leadership role. So we appreciate the majority of the board putting that trust in us, and I want to state that we will not shirk our responsibilities on this work, and will absolutely be happy to work with Stewart on this with their guidance to assure that we have continuing avenues for public participation and a productive end product. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be work. Not that any of our work is not work, but this is going to be very good for the city. I'm looking forward to getting this underway. Thank you, Mo, for that report. Now, all of our agenda items are complete, folks. I'll ask if there's any additional comments or other business to be brought before the board. If there are no additional items, we'll advance to announcements. Anyone have announcements? Item K, I'll say, as we always do, your attendance chart and member roster closes out your packet for this evening. And now, with no other business, folks, can I get a motion to adjourn? Look, I'm telling you, that was in unison. A second, please. Thank you. Motion is on the floor. Any final discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thanks, folks. We note that with the meetings closed, Mr. Lachlan reverts into city alternate statuses with no more voting privileges this evening. Thanks for your help tonight. Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and happy Thanksgiving. We stand adjourned at 6:59.